let's see. I'm Britney Garibay. I just turned 17 a couple days ago.
Hey, happy birthday.
Thank you. And I go to Douglas Anderson School of the Arts for drawing and painting.
Oh, awesome. And I saw on your Instagram that it says you are a freelance artist.
I always had a thing for it ever since I was a child, but going to DA, it just completely opened like a whole new world of opportunities for me. And I just started like going the direction I'm going to now. I just always had a passion for art. That's just always been me personally.
Okay. And what are your biggest influences? Like, do you have any specific artists that you're really into? Like, what inspires you?
The biggest thing that's inspiring me at the moment is my culture. Like anyone who knows me, I'm constantly making art about Mexico and my family and all that stuff. And I just feel like it's such a beautiful thing. When I first went into DA, I was looking at like the statistics, and there's only a 1% Hispanic population. And that just gave me like an entire boost of wanting to make art surrounding my culture, because it's one of those things that you don't see typically at my school. And being able to bring that into the table, I guess you could say, it just makes me so proud. It's just like such a beautiful thing, and it has to be showcased more.
I understand that completely. I discovered like 3% of all writers are Hispanic. Only three out of
That's
like
crazy.
100. Insane. Can you tell us about your art style and how you incorporate like your culture and stuff into it?
I don't know. I guess like every artist always believes that they don't have an art style, but I've always taken inspiration from like mural artists. Like if you see mural artists in Mexico, their art is very colorful. And I've been told a lot that my art is very saturated. And I always like to go for realism. I can't ever achieve it, but that's just like my style, like slightly realistic. And I always like to incorporate, like we have to do concentrations at my school. So we focus on a topic and then we incorporate those ideas into it. So that's mainly where my inspiration comes from, like talking to my parents and just researching the ideas. That's where all that comes from. So I don't know, the light is like super bright. I feel like my face is super white.
No, you're fine, no worries. And what are your like this question sounds weird. Like, what are your favorite pieces that you have created?
Oh my god. Okay, so I think an all-time classic is that one painting I have where it's the flag. I did that last summer before my junior year, and it took me so many hours and so much time. I also really enjoy another one from last summer, and it was a whole bunch of hands creating a face. The assignment was to just practice hands, so we had to paint like 5 hands and just practice like the anatomy of hands. But me being super extra, I decided to paint 14 hands creating a face, but that's just who I am. And I think my most current favorite piece is the one that I am currently working on, which is currently a surprise, but it's a sort of like memorial for kids who have died in ICE detention centers. I just feel like, I don't know, ever since I saw that post on Instagram, I just had such a drive to paint it, and so I just got straight to it.
That's amazing, especially for someone like your age, because I only know like a handful of artists that are around your age, and you do such beautiful work. And
Thank
especially
you.
one of my favorite ones was the most recent one you did of George Floyd. And
Oh, yeah.
that was a very beautiful piece. I enjoyed it a lot.
Thank you.
How have you considered like selling your paintings and stuff? And how much like do you go for your paintings?
I've done small commissions in the past, like little 5x7 ones, and I sold them for 15, which is like a very, very low price. But for some reason, people just don't understand the price of art, because I literally had people tell me that that was too expensive for them, though there's a lot of work that goes into it. I've never sold like one of my actual bigger pieces, and I don't know, I guess I've never thought about what the price would be, but I am planning on opening prints later. And since my concentration this year for my senior year is going to be around immigration, I'm planning on all prints that are being sold about that topic, or the art that I make around that topic, will be donated to people that are in such circumstances, as my way of giving back, because I don't really have, like, I guess you could say money or something, but if I'm able to have that opportunity, I'm going to donate that money to those people.
State like your Instagram name right here, just so that like people know where to follow when they want to check out this work and help like be more motivated
My
to
art,
work.
my art Instagram is bmg_arts, and then my regular one is bm Garibay.
Awesome. And so how you're saying this is your senior year?
Yes, I'm gonna go into my senior year.
How is that with COVID? Like, are you hoping that you're able to go back to school instead of like doing homeschooling and stuff? Because I know that's still up in the air.
Honestly, I feel bad because as a senior, I don't want to miss out on any of those experiences and being with my friends and that stuff. But the safest possible option is staying home. And even though it does suck, with COVID going around, I think we should stay home. Like, I heard that, we are going back, probably mandatory masks. And going to art school is kind of difficult to do school online because there are certain things that you just can't teach through a camera screen. You have to do like hands-on learning. But if I had the option, I would definitely stay home for the very obvious reason. And yeah, there was a little like piece of me that was like, yeah, we're gonna go back, because it's just a lot funner to do art at school, but it's just safer to do it at home. And that's just like, the gist of it.
And what are your goals with your art? Like, so tell us like long-term or larger goals that you have for it.
Oh, I've never thought about this. I don't plan to do art as a career. I plan to do it as a side thing. Like, I might go into engineering as my like big thing, but long term, I'd probably like never stop doing art, and I would still like to do art that would contribute to the people in my culture. Also, definitely like be able to incorporate art more into that Hispanic culture, because I feel like a lot of Hispanics, like, I don't know, they see art as like a iffy type thing. I just want to encourage it more in that community. I just feel like it's a lot more, also continue to raise awareness for whatever causes that is currently happening. But I'm not exactly sure what my long-term goals are. Just definitely continue my art in the direction that it's going.
And so with COVID, has that actually helped you better your art, like having more time for it, or actually has it hindered it at any point?
Regardless, either way of COVID, I would spend many, many hours painting. Like, I would always spend up to like 3 a.m. in the morning on a school night painting just to get it done. So I feel like COVID definitely has given me more time and a lot more inspiration. There's a lot of things that are happening right now, and unlike when I was in school, it just gives me a lot more time to plan out my designs and to fully render pieces instead of like bringing them to school not completely finished. So I think COVID has given me more time to paint. I don't know, it's just been crazy,
Yes, it's continuously hectic. 2020
Yeah,
is a very weird year.
exactly.
And do you have any sort of favorite artists that you like look out for? I know there's not a lot of Spanish artists to like look up to right now.
I've never actually like found a certain artist that I like. Like, anytime that I'm looking for inspiration for my art, I just search up Hispanic mural artists, and I don't know, I've always wanted to do a mural. I think that's good. Sorry, going back to the last question, that might be a long-term thing, being able to paint a mural at some point, like one of those Mexican murals they have. I don't know, I just look up to them so much. Like, personally, to me, it's so crazy how people can expand an image so big and make it proportional. That's just been crazy. But I've always been inspired by those type of murals, or that mural style. It's just been an admiration of mine.
And what about the style? Like, is it just because like it's such a giant image and that you can just see it like right there?
I mean, that too, and also going back to how I take like oversaturated colors from it. I just love the style they have. Like, it could be a different artist, but the style can be very consistent, like very sharp lines. They also incorporate graffiti, so I'd probably incorporate that into one of my pieces coming up. But I don't know, it's just like they're always impactful in some way. Like, murals speak for themselves, it's very obvious, but it's always something relating to family or religion or some type of like strong message that just like impacts you all the time.
Okay, you mentioned graffiti, and that made sense because in Puerto Rico they have giant
Yeah,
murals that people do with graffiti, and I always think they're amazing.
yes, I agree.
And so let's see. Especially because you're so young and you have such a like really good talent. I was just like
Thank
being
you.
self-taught. Like how did you end up teaching yourself like how to make such beautiful work like that?
I'm not gonna lie. The first time I painted was the end freshman year, so 2 years ago, and it was absolutely awful. And the reason why I painted so late on is because I didn't have those resources. Like I come from, I don't want to say a poor family. We're just like not what people would consider middle class, which is not a bad thing at all. I'm perfectly fine how I am, but I just didn't have the resources that maybe other kids did. So I didn't like have many art supplies or stuff like that. So I tried painting for the first time in the end of ninth grade. It was absolutely awful. I hated it. And then last year, not last year, sorry, sophomore year, we incorporated a lot more painting, and it still wasn't the best, but it definitely got slightly better than it was freshman year. And I honestly don't know what happened, but I think it was because I started watching a ton of videos on Instagram and YouTube on like painting tips for beginners, and I like noticed the techniques that much better established painters would use. And the fastest way that I learned to paint was just over like extremely looking at the colors. Like if you notice, to achieve realism, it seems hard, but it's really not. The only technique is that you have to paint every single little variation of skin tone, which seems kind of hard. And also be open to different colors, because before I didn't believe that like the skin had like blue in it or purple or green. But if you really notice to someone's skin tone, it has every single one of those colors. So in order to achieve that image where it's actually realistic, you have to take in consideration all the other colors that come into it. And obviously like it depends on someone's style, but if you're trying to go for a more realistic style, you have to tone those colors down. But you have to really keep in mind every single little change. And I think that's what mainly created this huge boom of progress that I had in the past 2 years. Because for 2 years of painting, it did take me a while to get to where I am now, but it's not impossible. Like I've always, the whole practice makes better, because it doesn't make perfect, but it makes better. That's always going to be such a true thing. And it's always just studying other people in order to get better yourself.
Okay, yeah, because that's like you saying that you started like freshman year of high school and you're already a senior, and that's just such a dramatic change is kind of amazing and very awe-inspiring.
Thank you.
Gotta give it hypes. Young
Thank you.
artist was like, wow, that's amazing. I had another question and I didn't write it down because I'm smart.
I felt that one.
You give really great like details about your work, and I think it's really cool because I never even considered like small tones, like colors, different colors,
Yeah.
but like pink and purple. I'm like, oh, that's different. Never heard of that. It's funny.
Yeah.
Like my little brother is around your age and he's an artist too, and I don't understand art.
I mean, I work in acrylic, which I would like to work in oil at some point. The only problem with oil is that it tends to be toxic in like a closed environment, and I don't have an open environment to work in. And even though I can achieve realistic art with acrylic, it tends to be really hard because you can't ever achieve that like skin-like realism that you can with oil. And acrylic just tends to dry super fast, which is not a problem with me because I'm very impatient when it comes to my art drying. But it definitely gets hard when you have to like mix the skin tones over and over again to get back to the one you had in the beginning. So I think acrylic definitely is a challenge, but that's just the medium I've always worked with. That's like my go-to medium.
Okay,
Personally.
so that's your favorite way of like using your art, by going by acrylic?
Yeah.
Okay. And so as a Hispanic artist, do you often feel like you have to like work twice as hard as Hispanic,
Um,
Latino, like female artists anyway?
well, it's kind of a weird question. I mean, going back to what I said earlier, going to a school, there was only 1% Hispanic population. I felt like I was representing for my people. Like, what's it called? Like always in my life, I've always felt like the underdog, I want to say. Like me personally, like when I'm in like a public environment, because I'm surrounded by people who don't relate to, I don't want to claim anything, but like we all have different problems. They just don't understand the problems that I'm going through, which is normal. But I went to a middle school that had a lot of Hispanics, like an insane amount. And going from that to like none at all, like no one could understand the struggles that I was going through personally as an Hispanic, because we have our problems currently as well. But I've always felt like I'm here to represent, and I've always felt like, what's it called? Maybe I don't want to say I needed to work twice as hard, but I definitely needed to work slightly harder than other people to get myself out there as an artist as well, because again, being an artist in the Hispanic community isn't seen very often, like you said, also with writers. But I just felt like I needed to use that to my advantage. That's why I started making my art surrounded to my culture. It's just those things that you'd be in a gallery, and it's like one of those things that you wouldn't expect because it's not seen anywhere else. So I felt like there was a duty in me to make my art about that because no one else was doing it. So
I think that's a really good first step when you're like noticing like there should be representation,
yes,
and you want to create that representation you weren't able to get.
exactly, because I don't see that like anywhere. So being that voice for any type of Hispanic that does like to make art, I don't know, it makes me proud to be able to have the opportunity.
I think you are going to go very far with your art, especially because, like I've mentioned several times, you do wonderfully, very beautifully, and you should
Thank
not be
you.
afraid to price your art, because I honestly was thinking that you're selling your art for like $150 to $200.
Thank you. People just don't like to pay.
Yes.
They don't take into consideration the money that goes into the time, because you can't buy time back. But also canvases are super expensive. Like I went to Michael's, yeah, I think it's Michael's, and I got this one canvas, Black Friday, the best day to get canvases. I got this one canvas that was for $200 for $20. It was insane. But canvases alone can cost $300 to $400, and if if the buyer isn't buying the canvas separately, but like from your work, it's like such a steal, because if you're selling a piece of art for $400, you're practically like giving it away because the canvas costs so much. And of course, again, the time and the effort that comes into it with every separate artist. I personally love to be a very detailed person. If something isn't perfect, I won't like sell it. So it's also like the quality of work. You have to pay for that quality of work, and some people just don't take that into consideration.
And how much time do you normally spend on a piece?
Definitely depends on how big the piece is, but so many hours. Like when we were in school, I would spend every single night painting till 4, sometimes in the morning, and every single night before the day a painting is due, I would always stay up. It's such a bad habit of mine, but I'm just such an perfectionist when it comes to my work. I love to be super detailed, super clean. I want to say that the one of the flag, the one that's like very popular of mine, probably took me like 50 to 60 hours because I kept working on it over and over, and I kept painting over the same thing because I didn't like how it was working. But it does depend on the piece that I'm doing. And usually when I do turn it in, it's still not finished because there are certain things that I still want to change, which I usually go back and fix it after I get my grade or whatever. But I just spend so many hours. I get into a zone when I'm painting, and no one can tell me to go to sleep or anything because I will just stay up and paint. But I can paint up to like 9 hours, 10 hours some days, maybe a full day at some point if I really need to get it done. But if I'm in the zone, I'm just gonna I put on classical music, and like how the speed just goes up when they're playing. I'm just like painting like that, trying to get it done.
Oh
It
God.
just it depends on the piece, but I spend a lot of hours on every single piece I do.
Okay, so yeah, I figured because the artists I know always go around for like 10 to more hours doing a piece. And
Yeah.
it always feels like they're lowballing themselves, being like, oh, I know someone's not going to pay this much for this. I'm like, but you did so much work.
Someone will pay for it. There's got to be someone who will.
And like when you used to mention like, oh, I would sell like smaller canvases for like maybe 15. And then I was like, I wonder how much she sells the larger ones. And I was lowballing, being like, oh yeah, maybe like 150 to 200 because she's younger. And then you're like, I haven't sold many of those yet. So I was like, oh, most definitely you can sell those for like $400.
Yeah, I plan to in the future when, what's it called? Because before COVID happened, I was going to have a solo exhibition, like my own gallery, and I was super, super hyped about that. COVID happened, and I was gonna auction some of my pieces there probably, sell some prints as well. But then COVID happened, and that dream kind of collapsed. So we'll have to see if I can do that again after, like, all this, but that'll probably be, like, next year, because at this point, there's no, like, being safe around that.
I'm sorry. That's so unfortunate.
It's fine. Things
And
happen. Can't do anything about it.
and where was this gallery going to be at? Was it like at your school or was it like a whole different separate thing?
Well, at my school, at Douglas Anderson, we have galleries every quarter. We obviously have like the super big extravaganza show that happens later in the year, but every single quarter we do like small galleries that typically have a theme. Not a theme, but like the first gallery is like mainly towards summer work that people did, and like the last gallery is for like the rising freshman and sophomore. The one before that is like the senior show. It just like shows some of the art we did during the quarter. But apart from that, I was planning on doing like a solo gallery where it was all of my current pieces that no one's seen yet because they're pieces that I haven't shown for reasons. And then just like an entire gallery of all the art I've done to this date, like mainly in my high school years. I wasn't sure of the place where was it going to be at, but I was doing some charity work with this lady, and she said that she had venues or studio areas like for free because she was like a charitable a charity. I don't know how to say it, but she said that she was we were like planning it, and we were gonna do a small gallery, and all the we were gonna like sell like really, really, really cheap tickets, and all those would go for the charity that I was working for, which is like for breast cancer awareness. And we were probably gonna auction some pieces off, and then that money would also go to breast cancer awareness type thing, all those funds. But again, Rona happened, so but we might go back to that idea and also continue the funds for that.
I mean, like even with the Corona, I guess you would just have to like sell less than you would have and be like 6 feet of distance at all times.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know people are doing like virtual galleries too, being like, hey, if you like this, you can buy it here and we will mail it to you, hopefully like sanitize like the packaging, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really good idea, and especially because unfortunately like, the Rona, but hopefully that you'll be able to get that gallery up and open as soon as it's over.
Thank you.
Ready for your senior year anyway.
Yeah, probably happen senior year, or at least the summer after senior year. Hopefully sometime next year. That's my goal.
Hopefully if everyone stays indoors.
Yeah. Everyone stay safe, please.
And so thank you so much for meeting with me today and being willing to discuss all of this with me. I know it's been very
Thank
hectic
you.
everywhere.